One of the biggest cop-out excuses I've ever heard in my entire life. You're on the battlefield. The army is charging at you. And there should be days where you're working on a specific part of your game and not judge yourself for not winning. What's going on, guys? It's Steven with 15 Points of Tennis. And in light of all the rain that's been happening, even in some of the videos you can see puddles on the court. So I wanted to step back and do a little perspective. All right, because I know some of you are out there just grinding, okay? 4, 5, 6 times a week. Probably some of you are more in maintenance mode, which is cool, But I remember when I was 13, 14 years old, man, I'd be out there, especially during the summer, 4 or 5 hours a day. And again, that was admirable. And that was a lot of hard work, but just don't confuse hard work and activity with results. And I want you to really think about when you step on the tennis court, what are you really trying to accomplish out there? All right, and the analogy is like, let's say you have the biggest, baddest, fastest ship. And you don't have to go directly to your target. A few detours is okay, but if you don't have any semblance of a map, well, you can get lost at sea very quickly. All right, so the question that really triggered this video, the common question I get is, Coach Steven, what should be my objective when I go out and play? And I put some decent thought into this because there's like literally a bajillion things you can focus on in tennis. I narrowed it down to 3 things. And these 3 things, you have to get to the end of the video where I explain where it all makes sense. But they balance each other out, because if you were to focus on any one of these 3 things exclusively, you can veer off the path, like way off the path. Before we continue, hit that like and subscribe button right down in the corner. I know these types of videos typically don't, I'm not making this video, to get the most views, etc. But for the people who need it, they really need it. Okay, now, I think you'll enjoy it. So without further ado, let's crack into it. The first objective, again, in no particular order, the first of the 3 objectives I want you to go out with is the mentality to win, to play hard and win. That's how simple it is. Okay, and my coach would tell me that the ultimate competitor is he or she who does whatever it takes within the rules to win, obviously within moral and ethical, boundaries, of course, but whatever it takes within the rules to win. Okay, and as coaching a lot of students nowadays, I believe that parents, although they don't verbalize it, put their kids into tennis or any sport. Really, it's for character building, because to be at your best and win, to produce your optimal, you have to really push through a lot of resistance. You have to persist. You have to develop grit. You have to find something deeper within yourself. Okay, and it's like, not kids, but people don't have just the true nature within themselves to go out there and grind. Can you go out and grind and leave everything out there, right? And not have your ego protection of, okay, what if I'm not good enough, but to really leave everything out there, right? And that's that mental muscle you have to strengthen every day. Now, you won't play well every day. And there's some statistic like most pros, and we're talking about the best tennis players in the world. Most pros only play their best tennis about 10% of the time. Scary, right? So if that's the best in the world, what can you really expect from yourself, right? But to go through that process of working so hard and only playing your best sometimes, well, you have to understand that tennis is not a game of perfection. Tennis is a game of imperfection, and you have to be able to accept that, right? Because there's bad things that go on in your tennis matches on the tennis court every single day. Just like in life, bad things happen every single day. How do you mentally deal with that? How much does it take, to break down your mind, essentially? What can you withstand? And so, on that note, look, there's even a whole book written by Brad Gilbert called Winning Ugly. A lot of times, matches don't look ugly, and you have to kind of ask yourself, why am I truly out here? Am I playing for my ego to look good? Do I just want to have pretty strokes and look good? Or do I really want to do whatever it takes to win? And that's a big, big difference. Most players out there, you got to learn how to play to win. Now, we talk about on this channel a lot because, you know, I'm a big proponent of, okay, setting internal metrics where you can succeed every time and not focusing so much on the external and letting the external stimulus and results dictate your emotions, right? Setting goals that you can control and you can hit. I'm a big proponent of that. But there is something, I just want to put this out there is something called the winner effect. You could call it winning begets winning. We can call it whatever you want. But essentially, because see, look, if let's say you're listening to 15 Points of Tennis, let's say you're working hard with your own coach, you're training hard, you're working on all your technique and stuff like that, and you're putting so much effort into it, but you go out there into the tournament, into the matches that count, and you're losing. Well, at some point, willpower is finite. At some point, you're going to train your brain on that cause and effect relationship, that cause isn't producing an outcome. You're not going to be able to link the two, and you're going to get discouraged. So you need wins along the way. It's healthy to win along the way, and they're going to be smaller wins that are going to grow. But again, you need that winner effect to give you confidence, to reinforce that my hard work translated to a match, and you go back out onto the practice court inspired, okay, not demotivated. So that's very important. And when should you really use this mentality? Or again, this is the first. We're going to go through the others a little faster, but this is important. When should you use this mentality is when you're playing a match, or you're playing a tournament. I think Sun Tzu has a very famous quote, right? Like the battle is either won or lost before it is even fought. And that's essentially saying, like, not that things are predetermined, but you are what you are before you play a tennis match. Like when you go into a tennis match, yeah, like you can make a few adjustments in the 5-minute warm-up, but essentially, you can't overhaul your forehand in 5 minutes. It's just not possible. Okay, your forehand is what it is. Like let's say, take the analogy, I threw you into a war on the battlefield. You're on the battlefield. The army is charging at you, right, with spears and on horses. And let's say you reach for a sword, your sword isn't there. What are you going to do in that moment? Are you going to break down on your knees and cry? Or are you going to be like, okay, let me grab a rock, let me grab a stick, let me fight and claw to the bitter end? All right? Well, it just made me think of, like, you see those Jackie Chan movies, Bruce Lee movies, Jackie Chan picks up a fork and a spoon, he's got to fight. He picks up a chair, he's got to fight. You have to teach yourself how to be resourceful and cultivate that side of you. And so that's the most important thing, okay? With this mentality is to teach yourself those skills, how to win and how to actually get a result when it counts. Now the next mentality is completely opposite to the basically win at any cost within the rules mentality. Okay, and it's thinking long term, because basically the general premise is this: 10,000 hour rule, great, I endorse it 100%. You can't get good at your craft without putting a lot of time, energy, and effort into that craft. You cannot. But the 10,000 hour rule, let's say you want to be a great pianist, for instance, and I sat you down on the piano, I made you play, Mary Had a Little Lamb 100,000 times or 1,000,000 times. Would you truly be a great pianist? I don't think so. Because that's a 10,000 hour rule, assuming you were trying new things, you were failing, you were experimenting, you were pushing your limits, you were being uncomfortable. Okay, and there are days that are not success and winning focused days. Some days are more long-term improvement days where you're analyzing your weaknesses. Where are you weak? What technique are you trying to build into your game for the long term? And you're going out and doing that. If you guys know Arnold Schwarzenegger, the bodybuilder, and his story, basically one of the reasons why he was so successful is he continually says, expose your weak points. So for Arnold, just real quick, he had small calves, and so he'd basically use his own personal social psychology, and he'd wear shorts that expose his calves. He's more motivated to work on his weakness. But same thing with a tennis player, to be aware of maybe one or two have clear focuses for that day. And when you go out, okay, winning is not your main priority, but moving the needle within those specific things. And when you go out there, essentially, you won't play as well because you're not optimized for winning. Okay, but your win for that day has to be getting better at that one particular skill. And you know what? You're going to experience failure. You're going to experience pain. You're going to try to come to the net and get passed on. You're going to look awkward volleying, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But these are the experiences you need. Now, my one little caveat to this, just like with the whole winning thing, and Mary Had a Little Lamb playing the song 100,000 times, is I'm working on my game in a situation where you need to focus on winning is one of the biggest excuses, one of the biggest cop-out excuses I've ever heard in my entire life is, why'd you lose? Oh, how'd it go out there? Oh, I lost. I was just working on my game. Like, that's ridiculous, stupid, okay? If that's something you said, like we've all said that, I was just working on a game as a cop-out because you lost. Don't ever do that because you're making excuses for yourself. Look, you have to genuinely be focused on, again, experimenting and pushing a new concept to the next level. Now the last one is, I think, is the most neglected by just coaches, people, etc. And I've seen this because I've kind of grown up in that highly competitive junior environment where it's so hard for a lot of players, especially highly competitive people, to truly have fun and appreciate. And now at the end of the video, we're going to show you how all these wrap together. But to truly have fun and appreciate the game. I mean, like they call tennis is a game. It's not a job. Well, it's a job for some people, but the reason why you got into tennis in the first place was probably to have fun and truly enjoy yourself. But for some people, tennis is a subtraction to their life instead of an addition. And here's what I mean. So like one of my buddies who I competed against with, great player, he ended up playing for an Ivy League school, and I was lucky enough to end with a winning record against him. But again, he accomplished so much. I remember talking to him a couple of years back. He told me that the day he hung up his racket was one of the best days of his life. I mean, just think about that for a sec. Like, what was he doing with all the days that weren't the best days of his life? He was playing tennis. It was, to him, he was suffering because he was playing tennis, because all the stress and everything that went on with being great at tennis. And so you see a lot of junior players. I mean, you've seen families broken up. You've seen marriages gone bad. You've seen relationships gone bad. All for what? Hitting a fuzzy yellow ball over the net? It's ridiculous. So tennis should be an addition to your life, not a subtraction. Even for me, as much as I love the game, when I was growing up in juniors and playing, sometimes I was so stuck in my head, focused on winning day to day or getting better. Again, the other two mentalities don't do this, but I was so focused on winning and getting better. It's so easy to lose yourself, not have fun, and not have the joy of playing, right? And funny enough, when I started, toward the end of my career, there are some days I'd be like, wow, this is my last tournament. This might be my last tournament I'm ever playing in juniors. This might be my last match I'm ever playing in juniors, the last set. Like, I remember the countdown. And for you, whether you're young and old, we all similarly have X amount of days that we're going to play. You might be 3,000 more days for the rest of your life. You might be young, you might be older, it might only be a couple hundred days. But the cold hard truth is we only have X amount of days. And every time you go out and play tennis, you have one less day in your life where you get to enjoy this beautiful, beautiful sport. And think about that for a sec. Like when you're out playing on the court, let's say you're playing the worst match of your life. You're playing awful, you're playing god awful. You either have a choice. You can say, look, this is a moment of my finite, short life. That it's a passing moment. I'm never going to get this moment back, ever. I'm never going to get this moment back. I have a choice. I can either look at all the things that are going wrong. Shoot, why is it windy? Why are why am I playing bad? Why is my opponent, why did I draw this opponent first round? You can focus on those things and have a negative experience of that finite passing moment. Or you could say, you know what, this is a passing moment in my life. I'm going to just, whether it's good or bad, I'm going to appreciate it. And I guarantee you, when you start to appreciate the game more, it's going to give you much more perspective. You're not going to get dragged down by all that negativity. Okay, because now you have more perspective. Like the good shots you hit, you're going to appreciate. The bad shots you hit, it's just going to be, again, a passing moment. Right? Because, again, there's so much gunk that goes on throughout the course of the match. It can look ugly, etc. These three mentalities, I bet you can name in your mind one person who's overly focused on winning, one person who's overly focused on development, right, and can't compete when it's time to compete, or overly focused on just having fun. I mean, and then the question is, what's having fun for you, right? So for me, having fun is playing hard and intense, competing, getting better. But there's some people who truly can't appreciate the game, like my buddy I just talked about, right? So the thing is, by having all these three mentalities, again, you can name someone who's over-focused on any one of them. It's the true balance between all these three. So there should be days you can go out and truly appreciate the game and not judge yourself for not winning or playing bad that day, right? Or not being so focused on the nitty-gritty of that day, right? There should be days you can go out, likewise, and judge and just focus on winning and not judge the fact that you're mucking up and playing ugly. Okay, some people just get mad because they're not looking pretty that day. And there should be days where you're working on a specific part of your game and not judge yourself for not winning. Because when you're working on parts of your game, you're not going to be able to win. You're going to be able to win still, but you're not going to be playing at your optimal. So you see how all these balance out, okay? I want to give you, and if, I want you to think deeply about this. I mean, if you're this far in the video, that's probably enough deep thinking you need to do about this. You're ready to close the browser and go out and play. All right. I just want to lay that out there. I know this might seem like common sense, but people who are in the day-to-day grind, playing tennis, like me when I was 13, 14 years old, like I mentioned, just the day-to-day grind, never thought about this. Was never even at least aware of, my objectives for the day. Okay, so the three objectives, I want you to take this, not with you on the court, just for the rest of your life, okay? Not even with tennis, with whatever you're doing. And so it's helped me think about it better. I really hope it helps you. So, all right, so hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you tuning in. Thanks so much. Have a great day.